And you are live.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Annapolis Education Commission meeting for our online monthly meeting. My name is Janet Norman. I'm the chair this year, and we have a full quorum of commissioners here with us tonight. So we are very lucky to get started because there's lots going on in the education world. So our call to order of the commissioners is, I'm going to start going through the wards to see who's here. If you could just say present or, indicate with your hand raised. So we know that you're here. So our secretary can take notes. Ward 1 is still vacant for our commissioners, and we encourage anyone to apply for that position. You can contact us at AnnapolisEducationCommission@gmail.com and let us know of your interest. Ward 2. Okay, is Jamie on tonight? All right. I'm going to say Ward 2 is not present right now. We'll let you know if she joins us later. Okay, Ward 3. Ward 3 should be you, Enid, if you're able to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, here.
Okay, if you want to let people know who you are and any quick background, and then we'll move to Ward 4.
All right, I'm Enid Collison-Lee, a retired school teacher, as well as I have 2 children who went through the Annapolis High School feeder system.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Ward 4, our commissioners for Ward 4 position is currently vacant. And again, we would love to have participation from anyone living within Ward 4. Just email us at AnnapolisEducationCommission@gmail.com. Ward 5.
Hi.
Okay, India Oaks, our Ward 5 commissioner, is present. Ward 6.
Here, present.
Okay, Corey McCall. How do you pronounce your last name, Corey?
That's fine. It's all over the place.
How would you like it to be pronounced?
McCall, whatever, all my life has been like that. It's up to you.
We are glad to have you, and thank you for your prior research.
Yes, ma'am.
Ward 7.
That's me, present.
That's Laura Booth, and she is our, go ahead and tell them your many roles that you play within the city.
I have an Annapolis High School graduate who is at UMBC now. I have a 7th grader at Bates, where I am also the president of the PTA.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Ward 8.
Present.
And you are?
I am a mom of 4 kids that are in the Annapolis, AACPS. I have 1 at Annapolis High, 1 at Annapolis Middle, and 2 at Eastport Elementary. On the PTAs at all the schools, and I'm the president and my name is Jessica Packler, and I'm the president at Annapolis Middle School.
Say your name. Say your name. Say your name, girl.
Right, my name is Jessica Packler.
Jessica wears 12 hats and is always juggling everything, and we appreciate that. Okay, our at-large commission members. Odessa?
Good evening, Odessa Ellis, retired permanent sub from Annapolis High School. And I had 3 children who graduated from Annapolis High School, 3.
Excellent. Thank you, Odessa. Grace, I thought I saw Grace Matthews.
Yeah.
Here she is. There she is. Sorry, looking around my screen. If you want to introduce yourself, Grace.
Yes, retired educator for 47 years in the county. And I'm very active in my church.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, and then we have several people joining us tonight. And so we can go ahead and introduce them right now with the rest of our group. I'm going to start with Dr. Joanna Tobin, who is our Board of Education District 6 representative and also currently the Board of Ed president. Okay, there's Joanna. And then I'm going to introduce some of our guests. If you could tell us about yourself. We'll start with Amanda Campbell.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Campbell, and I am the elementary school program manager and foster grandparent program manager at Seeds for Success. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you for being here. Lakira Davis. Lakira.
Hi. My name is Lakira Davis. I am special ed TA at Georgetown East Elementary. I'm the PTA president at Georgetown East Elementary. I have 5 kids that graduated. No, I'm sorry. Three of my children are already graduated from Anne Arundel County Public Schools. My daughter, she's at Marley Middle now because we moved, but she was at Georgetown East. And then my oldest daughter is at Glen Burnie High.
Excellent. Thank you very much for taking time to join us. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
And then we have Sharika, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Hi.
No, I'm sorry.
No worries. It's Sharika Crawford. I am a mom of 2 in the city of Annapolis, Ward 3, with Enid. I have 2 sons. One just finished at Annapolis Middle, but he is now in the county STEM program. And then I have a second middle schooler who got moved from Annapolis Middle quickly to another STEM county. So I'm not a first-time guest. So I've been kind of coming in and out over the years. And thank you for letting me come in.
Thank you. And
Madam Chair, we have an attendee identified as Danielle Toomer who has raised their hand. Should I promote that person as well?
I believe so. Does anyone know Danielle?
Danielle's the other person Jeff McChris introduced you to.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, it's been a long
right now.
Yes, I didn't know her last name, so I didn't recognize that. All right. Hi, Danelle. I'm Janet Norman, the chair of the commission, and we are just going around and doing our roll call and introductions. So we'd love to have you introduce yourself if you get a chance to unmute and just let us know, your situation within a.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, good. I cannot see myself. I don't know where the camera is right now.
Yes, I'm trying to promote you to a panelist. You'll need to
I
adjust
see.
the
I see
promote
now.
button.
Yes, I see.
Yeah, we all struggle with the little technical challenges.
Okay, she's in as a panelist, but
Okay.
I'm gonna unmute myself.
Great.
Okay, and I'm gonna turn on the camera. Okay. Hello. Can you see?
Hello.
Hi. So I am Danielle Toomer. I have a daughter who is attending Bates Middle School right now in the PVA program. She did go to Annapolis Middle, but was transferred from there to Bates this year. She went to Annapolis Middle last year, but this year she started with Bates. And we've lived in Annapolis for 13 years now.
Great.
Yep, 13 years. I have a mother of 2, married mom of 2 girls. I do have a 6th grader who will be coming to Annapolis to go to school next year.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know if you got on early enough to see Laura Booth, who's our Ward 7 representative and president of the Bates PTA.
Thought you looked familiar.
Great. All right, so we're going to crank right along. I am going to move to the next agenda item on our agenda is is accepting or revising the agenda. I made it generic enough where we have some discussion items and then unfinished business and new business, so that any categories of what you want to raise for discussion can be fit in there. But if anyone wants to propose something before we accept this agenda and move on, if you can let me know right now. Okay. Odessa.
Do you see anything, or do I just wait for unfinished business to talk about the crowdedness?
So I'm going to address that in number 7 on the AACPS staff update, because I did forward your email on to Assistant Superintendent Jolynn Davis.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you know her reply back there.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sending that email. Okay.
Mhm.
Hearing no other objections, I'm going to make a motion to accept the agenda as proposed, and we move forward. Vote on the motion. You can just raise your hand, accepting the agenda. Okay, I see enough hands raised and motion passes. Agenda set. We do need to do an approval of the minutes for the June 22nd and the August 31st meetings that we had previously distributed. I distributed June twice and August. Does anyone have any revisions that they need to provide for the draft minutes? Pam has her hand up.
Okay. I know in the June 22nd ones that I had misspelled Jolynn Davis's name. I was channeling Dolly Parton, I guess, at the time, wrote Jolene.
Yes.
But I will make that correction.
And we appreciate that. We appreciate that. I'm sure it's not the first time she's gotten that. Yes. Okay. Enid had a hand up.
I make a motion that with the correction in the spelling of Mrs. Hilbert's name, that we approve the minutes of 6/22/22.
Can we motion to approve both of them? Does anyone have any revisions to the August 31st meeting minutes? Okay. Hearing no revisions or seeing no hands up, I'm going to assume they are good to go. And Enid, if you could make your motion for the August.
Okay, I make a motion that with the correction of the spelling of Ms. Hilbert's name, that the minutes of 6/22/22 and 8/31/22 be accepted as written.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Second.
Second.
Second. Okay. I guess we all have to vote. Minutes accepted. Minutes are adopted. Thank you, guys. Now on, I just want to say a couple remarks. Laura, could you pull up our slideshow thing for me while we do this?
Sure.
I wanted to give out a huge shout out to our city. If you want to move to the next slide, I think, there we go. I wanted to give a big shout to the city of Annapolis, the mayor, the city council, the city staff, the public works people, for all they have done to really invigorate like learning and education and heritage and inclusion activities within the city. They recently sponsored, a huge songwriters festival, the Kunta Kinte Heritage Festival that they do with private partners. There was an Annapolis Pride event on West Street Saturday night. The sailboat and powerboat shows are coming up that we can hopefully expose our students to the maritime industries and all those job opportunities. And the city really, along with hosting all the Navy football games and everything else they do, the city is knocking themselves out. And I just hope we can express our gratitude to all the staff that's doing the job. I pulled this phrase up that I don't know if Sharika or Danelle have seen this somewhere in the Naval Academy. Was painted on the wall from Rear Admiral Grace Hopper. who I think Mayor Buckley is really adopting this phrase. The most dangerous phrase in the language is, we've always done it this way. And Annapolis is really trying to move from that, this is the way we've always done it mentality. And I know with Dr. Bedell's new reinvigorated reentry plan and everything else, we're really moving into, why are we doing something? Can we be doing it differently? Can we be doing it better? And I just wanted to acknowledge them. Thank you. Laura, you can go back to the agenda. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to move on to public testimony. And I believe Jess might have something that someone has submitted to us that just came in at like 5:45 tonight in notification.
I do, if I could find my screen. Do you want me just to read the whole email, or how do you want me to?
Sure. I haven't seen it, so I don't know what it is.
Okay. So this is from Eastport Elementary School PTA. And it's an ongoing issue. We discussed it a little bit in previous meeting. The PTA has been in, so this is the testimony. The PTA has been in communication with our school regarding our new drop-off and pickup location on Chesapeake Avenue. And it says, see below for a background on the decision to Chesapeake Avenue for more details. We have advocated for what the community and parents believe is the safest for students and the most logical option for our community. However, we have been told that the new drop-off pickup location will not be changed for the 22-23 school year. We strongly believe that student safety is not being considered by the Aacps offices who have made this decision. Therefore, the community and the parents have suggested moving the drop-off pickup location back to 5th Street, enter the school via the kindergarten wing and playground entrance. Everyone who is advocating for this change strongly believes this is the most common sense option for the reasons below. Number one, safety. Our walkers from the other side of 6th Street to President Street cross over 6th Street route to school for them and includes a biker's lane, which enhances safety for our walker. Instead of going directly into the safe fenced-in school grounds after crossing 6th Street, they are now walking along 6th Street, turning onto Chesapeake Avenue, the two busiest roads in Eastport and the busiest intersection in Eastport, to enter the school building. Children arriving early are left to wait on Chesapeake Avenue on a very narrow sidewalk until the school doors are open, versus waiting safely on the fenced-in green space playground if the kindergarten wing playground entrance was used, as in if the kindergarten entrance was used. 5th Street is the safest and quietest street around our school, and the green space playground is also a safer option to wait for school to open. Number two, buses and cars. We have a bus curb cutout on 5th Street, especially made for buses. Therefore, a bus can safely park here to drop off kids and set them further away from the street. We also have no parking signs on Severn Avenue, which allow our car line to wrap around the street without blocking traffic flow on Severn Avenue. There is not a bus curb cutout on Chesapeake Avenue, and there is no place for our car line to line up on Chesapeake Avenue without impeding traffic. Number three, traffic and community. Our former preferred drop-off location on 5th Street caused less stress on the traffic flow around the school. The new drop-off pickup location is causing an already busy street of Chesapeake Avenue to be extremely busy, furthermore causing blockages around the school property. For example, in the morning, Chesapeake Avenue is blocked up the entire way to the Eastport Shopping Center, 3/4 of a mile backup. In the afternoon, our car line is blocking 5th Street and parts of Chesapeake Avenue. Residents used to be able to get out of their driveways and leave on 5th Street more easily. Now it can take up to 20 minutes for neighbors to get out of this area of the neighborhood. This added congestion is further contributing to an unsafe route to and from school for our walkers. Background on the decision to choose Chesapeake Avenue. Per conversations with our school principal, the new drop-off pickup location was moved to Chesapeake Avenue per the head of school security advising that we use one entrance only for drop-off in the morning and deeming Chesapeake Avenue to be the safest entrance for students to use in case of an intruder. Therefore, we asked more questions and found out that there is a second safe entrance option, which is our K-wing/playground entrance, which connects to the front of our school along 5th Street. After further investigation, we were told that the reason the Chesapeake entrance was chosen versus the K-wing playground entrance was because this is where the bus drops off. So logically, we asked if the bus could be moved to 5th Street. We were told the school does not control where the bus drops off, and the most likely reason the bus drops off on Chesapeake instead of 5th was because the bus was afraid of damaging cars on the smaller street of 5th Street. Please note that the bus did in fact drop off on 5th Street for many years prior to moving Chesapeake, as the drop off in buses for field trips regarding drop off and pick up on 5th Street. So the question that everyone is now asking is, what is more important, a bus accidentally taking out a car mirror or a student getting hit by a car? The obvious answer would be a student getting hit by a car, but that is being considered in AACPS's decision? Please let us know what further steps can be taken to create a safe arrival and dismissal for our students.
Thank you for reading that testimony. I'm not sure how we want to proceed, but I think it's very compelling information from the elementary school. The thing that stuck out many things stuck out, but what stuck out to me in my mind was the school does not control where the bus drops off.
From what we've been told and from what the questions that when I've asked about this, both as a parent at the school and as part of the transportation, part of the commission and as part of the community at large, is that the school does not make these decisions. The decisions are the school, as in the principal, the decisions are made by the Office of Security and the Office of Transportation. I know that there have been a number of people who have reached out asking for changes to be made back to the other, and nothing so far. The answer is no, we will not be changing anything back. I can say my own personal experience as a community member is that this decision seems to have been made without taking the community around the school into consideration. And also, you know, as was mentioned in the letter, Chesapeake Avenue is an incredibly busy, dangerous street, and you know, it really it causes so many problems that weren't caused when we used 5th Street as the primary drop-off point. So I guess the question then is, what are the next steps that parents in the community and the PTA, I think that was her final question of the email, was what are the next steps that can be taken to create a safe arrival and dismissal for the students, and how should that be addressed?
And as the commission, linking the city and the county, we're also kind of speaking up for the residents of the city, who then, as you say, are kind of locked in. That creates a safety issue for them. You know, someone has a potential heart attack or something, and they're not able to quickly move around in traffic.
Right. One of the things that we did last year, that I did as part of the commission and as a parent, was, as she mentioned, we have on 6th Street, we worked with, or on Severn Avenue, which is the other side from Chesapeake of the school property. We worked with the city to get all of the parking spots that are there designated as no parking during school pickup and drop off, so that when cars were stopped when cars were stopped at the 5th Street entrance, and they could loop around onto Severn Avenue, and we could still have two-way traffic completely on Severn Avenue. And that worked really well, because then our cars were not in any way causing any traffic issues. You can't do that when the drop off and pickup is on Chesapeake Avenue. There's no way to have two-way traffic unless you have, people are playing chicken, which everybody who's driven in Eastport knows you play chicken on Chesapeake Avenue regardless, but now they're playing chicken in front of school kids who are getting dropped off and crossing crosswalks, and you know, it's a huge traffic mess. I did reach out in my position as the Ward 8 commissioner to the city and asked them to look into it. I was told that they spoke with AACPS and were told that it was a decision that AACPS made, and there was nothing that could be done. So I would love I would also love to know what we could do to get this, because it really is an unsafe situation, and it's a community causing problem. There's two things happening there.
Okay. Joanna, aside from the commission writing as a whole to Dr. Bedell and showing up at a school board meeting to testify to this effect, are there any other means by which we would have a voice to improve the safety of this situation?
So I believe I was just checking my email before I got on here, and I believe I received the same email that Jess read. So that has been, and I'm assuming there are other, I didn't have a chance to look at the whole email chain, but I'm sure that along with me, other staff and board members were included. So that has obviously been sent into that sort of loop. I would suggest that writing a communication to Dr. Bedell as from the perspective, as you said, Janet, speaking essentially on behalf of the larger community, is probably your best next step, because that sort of adds another
That layer of
perspective and voice to the concern.
Okay. All right. Jess, thank you for reading that testimony. At this point, I'm going to take that information and we will follow up after the meeting to see our best ways of moving forward with that. But just because we have so much stuff going on, I'm going to keep us rolling forward. Do we have any other public testimony that's been submitted? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public testimony portion of the meeting, and I am going to move us to Dr. Joanna Tobin, our Board of Ed representative and President's report. And I do want to add, Joanna, that I know you have to leave at 7, so I wanted to let the rest of our members know about that. And we were not able to have Ms. Jolynn Davis join us tonight. She had another commitment, but she has sent us an email saying that you will be reporting information for her.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I am happy. I mean, it's pretty standard that I just pass on as well, whatever I hear.
If you can just, for clarity's sake, because some of our viewers and some folks don't, sometimes the terms are used interchangeably when someone says the Board of Ed and they really mean the central office administration. So if you can just make clear when you are speaking for the elected Board of Education who sets policy, and when you are relaying information from the central administration who sets implementation and actions.
Yeah, that's a really important point that we keep trying to reinforce. It's unfortunate that as you drive down Riva Road, there's a big sign that just says Board of Education. So people think that entire building is the Board of Education, and it is not.
And that's what the high school staff still calls it.
Yes. Every school building staff will routinely say to a parent, well, you need to call the Board of Education about that. And sometimes what they're talking about is as you say, essentially the central office, which are the senior staff and the superintendent. Also, just a quick reminder for those, I know Commission is aware of this, but just for those who are listening, because I think this is another source of confusion, is what the board does versus what the superintendent and the staff do. The Board of Education is responsible for governance, right? So we are as Janet mentioned, policy, which are essentially the local laws that the school system abides by, budget, and we hire and oversee the superintendent. The superintendent is responsible for the operations of schools. And so, and of course, he doesn't do that by himself. He has a big staff that helps him do that. And as I'm sure you're also all aware, and Janet alluded to, we have a new superintendent who began August 8th, Dr. Mark Bedell. If you haven't already, he has his entry plan. It's available on the website. It gets updated once a week. It is my understanding he will be planning over the next number of weeks listening sessions. And so be alert for that, because those will be opportunities for members of the public to come hear from him, presumably raise questions and so forth. He is, if you've been attending to our board meetings and any other events he's been doing, he's very keen on listening to what people are telling him. This is a big system, and he's coming in, and he's got to, as a good educator, he's got to assess and determine what may need changing. And he will be getting his report to us at the board sometime in November.
Can I just add one thought on that? So Dr. Bedell has this reentry plan that's on the AACPS website, and he's been updating it, every week or two,
right,
with a new version. I encourage all the commissioners and public and PTA leaders and anybody else to go take a look at that and see where he's doing his analysis, and shoot him an email to superintendent@aacps.org where you think something could be improved, or where you think he needs to look at the functioning of a certain element in his reentry plan as he makes recommendations in mid-November. So now is the time to tell him which elements of his plan you want him to examine, and what needs to be considered. So
that's a good point. And I think the plan is structured with a set of goals. So you need to sort of look at those goals initially, and then see what he's looking at through all of those. And I think that he's already, for example, it was released on Friday, made a bit of a course correction in the use of our learning management platform, Brightspace. Yes. There were particular concerns around elementary teachers and Brightspace, but he's continuing to look at this. And he said this in our board meeting last week. This is a continuous process. He's going to be doing some sort of mid-year survey of teachers, for example, to kind of see where we are. So I think one of the many things I admire about Dr. Bedell is his view that, you're kind of continually adjusting as things happen, and as you get good information. I should also say that he is very, very interested in measurable goals and data. Now, when I say data, I don't mean that every child is simply a number or a score. Data can be and should be collected in a very holistic fashion. So it's not just a set of test scores or a set of grades. It's also the social and emotional progress, closing opportunity gaps, all of those things. But he is very focused on that. That's what he did very systematically in Kansas City, where he was previously superintendent. And he took a system that had not been fully accredited since the year 2000. He got there in 2016. And within 5 years, he got it accredited, which frankly, I don't think anybody thought could be done. And he did it by being very systematic. And what he has said publicly initially about his experience thus far in Anne Arundel County is he thinks we have extraordinary resources compared to much of the rest of the country, quite frankly, and he's right about that. But we have, as he puts it, 1,000 little cuts. We have relatively little things that are fixable, but there are a lot of them. If we're going to go from being good, and by the standards across the country, we're good, to being great, which he believes we have the capacity to be. And so I think in his very systematic fashion, he's probably, once he's done his full assessment, going to set about healing those cuts. And so that's his sort of philosophy and plan. I'll just say a couple more things and then give everybody time to ask questions. We obviously continue to have transportation struggles. We understand that. I will tell you that a week or so ago, we had 111 routes out. Yesterday, we had 85. Today, we had, I believe, 75. We are moving slowly and piece by piece in the right direction. Believe it or not, where Annapolis was absolutely the worst hit last year, it is not this year. Shocking. That doesn't mean we haven't been hit hard. It just means that North County and to some extent Meade, I believe, have taken the harder hit. Some of the issues that you're talking about, possibly some of the issues around where buses unload and so forth, I think, to be honest with you, is part of or symptomatic of a systemic issue, which we've talked about in board meetings and we're going to continue to talk about, which is our reliance on many, many, many small bus contractors. It's not a very sustainable structure, quite frankly, and it doesn't give us, it certainly doesn't allow us to be very flexible. And we are exploring and will continue to explore, again, Dr. Bedell is doing this work, how to impose, in some cases, more stringent penalties where necessary, to ensure that we get better response in some cases. Because we've got some.
Do you know how many bus routes are still out in the Annapolis cluster?
In the Annapolis cluster, I don't have the exact number for you. I think last I checked, we were at, I believe, 5 or 6 for Annapolis High. I can't remember how many we're at for Bates and Annapolis Middle. I know that we have at least one out in Tyler Heights. I think a couple, I know one in Georgetown. Germantown. I think a couple of Georgetown East. One at Mills Parole, I believe. But I'd have to go back and look exactly. But yes, we had a presentation at the last board meeting on transportation, and the staff provided a map which really showed countywide where the outages are, and also highlighted where Title I schools have outages, because that's obviously one way of prioritizing where bus routes are, but that's not always the only one, right? Because, for example, the first week of school, Hillsmere had a bus out. Hillsmere is not a Title I school, but the bus that was out was the Robinwood bus. So there's high need for those students. Now, fortunately, after the first week, we got that bus running, and to my knowledge, it has continued to run. But I know there's still Robinwood older students that don't have a bus. And so we're working on that. We've just, our biggest, the high school that had the biggest number of outages was, up until today, North County. But they've just got new notifications that several routes are now being covered. So they still have a large number of routes out, but they are no longer the highest. I think Meade is now the one with the highest number of bus routes out. So,
okay.
Annapolis had 7 out today.
Okay, Jess, go ahead.
I was just going to say Annapolis had 7 routes out today.
Annapolis High School?
Annapolis High School.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody have a question they wanted to ask Dr. Tobin while she's here with us for the next 18 minutes? Enid has a question.
Yes, I was wondering, I think at our last meeting, we said something about a meeting between the city and the Board of Education Sheila was telling us about. I was wondering if that was of any help.
So I think what you're referring to, Sheila mentioned that the city transportation department, the county transportation department, and the AACPS transportation department met. And that was supposedly on September 1st. I believe they met again, or they did meet on September 8th, because I just met yesterday with the mayor of Annapolis, the city manager, the transportation director, and Hillary, the board's liaison, acting as chief of staff. And so I told Dr. Tobin that they have been working on as many, and we'll cover this a little bit later, but they were working on as many possibilities, alternative possibilities with the county. They're responding to our request to consider how to make the brown line of the city's bus system more efficiently get to the high school after transferring to the yellow line, and rerouting that where it used to go from the yellow line owned by the county to the mall, from the mall to a variety of places in the business parks and Harry Truman and MVA and blah, 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 and then Annapolis High School. They told me yesterday that the county was going to be rerouting it so that it would hit the high school first before the rest of those business park areas. So shortening the travel time for any students getting from the yellow in the mall. So they're looking at short-term solutions. They're looking at long-term solutions. They're also looking at expanding the program, the Annapolis Go program, which I hope you can all, we'll distribute some information. I hope you can all download the app and see how that's run, try it out, use it, but expanding the service jurisdiction area out to the high school and the Riva Road area. I do want to mention to you that we will be asking the Board of Ed for the financial contributions that were supposed to be spent on Annapolis Bus Company and the 7 routes or more that have not run, to be then providing, alternatives. We don't want that money that was supposed to go to the Annapolis Custer students to get them to school to just disappear back into the 85,000 student pot when our students are being affected. So this is fresh that we're still working with things, and we're trying to get AACPS to respond back to the city, that the city is still waiting for responses back. So Enid, if that answers your question. Odessa has a question for you, Dr.
Yes, Dr. Tubin, how is that affecting the attendance at the schools? If the kids can't catch a ride, like you said that there's a problem in the Robinwood neighborhood for, I guess it's the high school kids, maybe. I don't know which bus it is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the kids, when the bus doesn't show up, what do they do? They just go back home?
So the our overall county attendance numbers are good. Dr. Bedell's been digging down into the disaggregated data, and I don't have at my fingertips right now where we are. I will tell you that initially, principals and teachers were quite amazed at how the community stepped up. So to give you an example, that first week of school that Robinwood didn't have an elementary bus for Hillsmere, there was only one Robinwood child who wasn't getting to school. And that child had attendance issues previous to this particular incident. So what administrators do is what they always do, right? They call the families and they check in and see what's going on. I will say that what I have been told by principals when I've discussed this with them is that it is important for them because all they see is essentially the raw attendance, right? They see who shows up and who doesn't. And what they need to know is how tenuous the transportation that a student has figured out is. So they need to, from their attendance data, they can just see whether they're getting there or not. It's helpful to them to really know if this is just a day by day, I may not have it tomorrow kind of thing. So if that happens, they are asking that families, if they can, reach out and let the school know that they figured something out, but they don't know how long they can continue to make it work if that's the case. I was at Annapolis High this morning for a meeting. I know that the staff there continue to reach, if the student isn't there, they reach out to the family and try to figure out what's going on. And certainly around the county at different schools, depending on the community, I know that principals at times are working with families if somebody's looking for a carpool or something, trying to connect families if they can. But according to Dr. Bedell, and this is based on his experience in other districts as well, he feels that we've actually, the attendance does not reflect, in his experience, the difficulties of the transportation, right? People are making it work remarkably well, given the obstacles that they're up against. But we don't, that's a hard thing to ask people to do. Yeah. And so, this is why we need to know if families are sort of just managing to make it work, but it could fall apart at any time.
Okay, Jess, you had your hand up first, and then Laura.
So I did have my hand up for another one, but I'm going to actually just talk on what you just said, Dr. Tobin. And I think that's great that we're looking, I'm a data person. I'm constantly asking the school system for data, as you know, and I love that. And I'm really excited to hear that's where we are. I worry that the process where it's being decentralized to the level of the school is going to mean that the information isn't getting where it needs to go, because our school staff, our school offices are so overwhelmed and so on every level, right? So, and if you happen to call in and you let somebody know at the front office, but it's somebody who's just there picking up the phone because the person at the front office went to the bathroom, how does that information get there? How are we actually tracking, and how are we getting, making sure that we're getting all the data and all the information we need? So I'm wondering, is there a possibility of creating a Google form or some way of parents entering in the information themselves and saying, look, this is the bus my child rides. These are the issue. We haven't had this system. We haven't had these things. These are the problems. We've managed to make it work thus far, but now we can't make it work any longer. Exactly what you just said, but in a centralized system, so that we're making sure it's getting where it needs to go. Because to be honest, knowing at my 3 schools, how much they're under the pressure of everything else and dealing with the kids who are coming late and the buses and everything, putting this additional burden of having to capture all of that information without some sort of centralized system seems like an unreasonable burden to be putting on them. And sorry, so that was the first part.
Well, I would just say, interestingly enough, this request has come to me from principals, right? So now those may be particular schools, particular principals who feel they have the bandwidth for whatever the reason, though these are Annapolis cluster schools.
Right.
But they feel that they can capture that information. That being said, I think your point is a very important one. And I will tell you that in sort of the bigger picture, this is what Dr. Bedell is looking at systematically is, where are we in terms of, what are the resources needed on the ground in the buildings, and how is that translating into being able to do all the things we need to do to move, as he puts it, every child forward, right? Whether you're ahead of where you need to be on level or behind? You know, how do we do that? Because all of those things are connected, right? If you don't have those structures in place, whether it's to get this kind of information or anything else, ultimately the system, the child is suffering in some sense. So from a sort of 40,000 foot level, he's looking at that, but I think he's well aware, having been, you know, a teacher and a principal himself, that what it takes to make this work on the ground is far more complex than just adding another thing for administrators.
Which is, I think that's
Okay,
important.
Jess, I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm sorry, because I need to give Laura and Danelle an opportunity to ask a question. So we can follow up online afterwards, or if there's time after them. Laura.
All right, quick question then. And I know it's sort of buried under the transportation issues, but I know one of the hopes that we had about changing the school start times is that it would ultimately help the attendance at our high schools, because we had so many students that, you know, if you missed the bus at 6 a.m. because you overslept, you didn't go to school that day. So is there any way of extrapolating or taking out the transportation related absences and lateness because of no bus, to see whether or not the start times are helping in that regard? I mean, hopefully we'll see also by, you know, grades and whatnot that the student performance has improved. You know, that is the hope for later. But for right now, is there any way that have we been able to tell if there's lower absentee rates?
That I'm not sure where we are with that. I know, again, Dr. Bedell is a master of data, quite frankly. And so he is, again, not just looking at it, but trying to set up the systems that will get us that, along with many other things that enable us to really pull apart what we're seeing. And he said in a previous board meeting, with regard to the change in school hours, you know, that is data we're going to be collecting, right? We want to be able to see what the actual impact of that is on our students. Now, I will tell you anecdotally, teachers I've been talking to have said, you know, it's an adjustment. It's, in some cases, if you're a high school student, yeah, I'm getting out of school later in the day. Elementary teachers are like, yeah, it's great, I'm getting out earlier in the day. But what I've been hearing from the teachers I've spoken with is whatever the adjustments are, they're seeing a difference in their students. You know, they're seeing students who are, if they're young, elementary, they're not having to be woken up to be put on the bus in the afternoon. If they're secondary students, they're alert in the morning in a way that they weren't previously. And another measure of that, because this has been the data that's been out there on start times, is social emotional behavioral issues as well. So there's a whole bunch of things. Interestingly enough, districts that have changed it, Fairfax a number of years ago, their sports teams started doing way better. The kids were more rested. You know, I mean, so there are all sorts of things that we're going to be gathering to see, you know, what unfolds. And as you said, good data analysis is also pulling apart, you know, what's noise and what's actually showing you something. And so attendance is a big, broad brush, but within that, there are lots of things that, you know, you need to pull out and see what's at work there. So, yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great,
Thank
thanks.
you, Laura, for the question. I'm turning to Danelle.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and it is Danielle.
Danielle, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you are right. It is spelled like Danelle. I've known that my whole life. Yes. So, Dr. Tobin, I will say that I've heard from friends of mine who have high school students say that their high school student is now more alert.
Yeah.
They said that is a very positive thing. So I wanted to give you that feedback. My quick question was, and I know you've probably answered this 1,000 times to parents, are there any plans or incentives in place to recruit and retain bus drivers?
Yes. So we continually work on this, and I'm going to say a statistic that I think is incredibly important for everybody to understand, because this goes to what it's going to take to compete in the market, which is really what the issue is with bus drivers, right? This is a very competitive market, and they can get jobs with Amazon, a whole bunch of places, making a whole lot more money, and I can't blame them, right? So we are at the last, I asked this of our COO at a board meeting. We are currently about 19th out of 24 school districts in Maryland in our per capita, per annum, per student expense.
For transportation.
For everything.
For everything.
And we are the third wealthiest county.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big disparity.
Mm-hmm.
Some would say that has something to do with the tax cap and a number of other issues. We, as a state, tend to get less federal funding because we are, by many measures, the wealthiest state in the union. As a county, because we are the third wealthiest county in the state, we get less federal money. Less state money, right? Because it goes proportionately to poorer counties. And so you have a big disparity there. And we received this past year, for example, was the first time in anybody's memory that I'm aware of that our entire capital budget was funded. But we have a capital backlog, a maintenance backlog that's kind of mind-blowing. And it's going to take way more than 1 year of getting our capital budget fully funded to get anywhere close to catching up with that. Mm-hmm. Similarly, we got a terrific budget from the county executive and the county. If you're familiar with our system, we on the board vote for what goes into our budget. We then have to take it to the county executive. The county executive decides what to keep of that or not. It then goes to the county council and they make a final decision. And so we got, I think, more of a very large ask. We got more than many people thought we would. But again, 1 year isn't going to catch you up over what are frankly decades of underfunding.
I was always told it was the tax cap.
The tax cap is certainly, I'd say, at the core of it. Now, people will tell you we're about 51% of the county budget, right? So the county, out of its budget, spends over 50% on the schools. But again, you've got to look at the whole, right? And you've got to look at what that amounts to per student. And I think that this is a big issue. It's going to take a lot of advocacy, to be perfectly honest, to stand up for our kids, because the fact that we're struggling to keep up with bus contractors. Well, the decision was made for years, and I can't fully disagree with it. It was made previous to me being on the board. Transportation was desperately underfunded. But the truth is that our core job is education. It's not transportation and it's not daycare, it's education. And we are not, and this is always shocking to people, we are not legally required to transport children to school except children with IEPs, special ed students, and children who fall under the McKinney-Vento Act who are homeless children. Other than that, we have no legal requirement to transport any child to school. And so if you're looking at a budget that's seriously strained, where are you going to cut, right? And the decisions have been made in the past. Well, put it in the classroom, put it, in the schools, because at the end of the day, that is what we're here to do. We're here to provide the best possible education to students. So that's a very long answer to your question, Ms. Toomer. But the point is, we are looking at all sorts of ways to get bonuses. The county executive has been working with us on that. But the fact remains that this is no small cost. And the truth is, I believe it may be necessary to figure out other mechanisms, whether it's to direct hire some of our bus drivers, where we can pay them better and with benefits, because understand this, the way the contracts are structured, we can't control how much the bus drivers actually get paid, right? We contract. The contract is for a certain amount of money. A contractor, and this is true in defense contracting, it's true in all sorts of things, determines what to do with that money, right? So how much of that is going to go to benefits, how much of it's going to go to profit, how much is it's going to go to salary. And so it again puts us in a position where we have so much less ability to directly control what's going on. But short term, it will always be cheaper to contract than to hire directly, because you don't have to make the long-term investments in bus depots and various other things. So, which require land, which require various other things. So it's also, at some point, the community is going to have to decide how important they think it is to make a long-term investment in a solid, resilient transportation structure. Because I'm here to tell you, from where I sit, it's going to be very hard to maintain this contractor structure, I believe, and not just be in these cycles on a continuous basis and be kind of at the mercy of what happens with the economy and CDL licenses and all the rest of it. So that's a long answer. I'm sorry, but I think it's a complicated thing.
Yeah, it sounds complicated.
Yeah.
Dr. Tobin, if you have just a couple more minutes, and Jess has a very short question. We'll go to you, Jess.
One of the other questions that I had was the effect that the bus situation is having on the magnet programs, particularly in the Annapolis cluster, but also around the county. I know that some of the magnet buses are some of the ones that are the most affected. And I know that the PVA program at Bates has already lost some students who have come back to Annapolis Middle because they can't go to the PVA program if they don't have transportation. And I'm just wondering if you have any idea the magnitude of the students who have dropped out of various magnet programs because they can't get to school, to the magnet schools, and what's going to be done about that as well.
I haven't yet seen that data. I want to see it. I mean, I'm sure you understand, the state reporting is, I think we report around the 30th of September or the 1st of October, the final attendance rates and so on. So part of this is making sure the data gets kind of cleaned up of who's actually there and who's actually not, because the first month of school, you have some sort of wash in there with regard to people who registered and then decided not to come, or, decided to come and they didn't register and so forth. So we're waiting a little on that. I will tell you, the magnet transportation is one of the biggest issues of how to resolve, because a lot of magnet buses, once they're in play for magnets, they can't do anything else, right? You lose a bus, basically. And so it's an extraordinarily, it's basically, in transportation terms, very expensive, right? And it's hard to support. So I want to see those exact numbers. I don't know them right now. I know it's been an issue, not just here, but across the county. I mean, we've got families who are, up in North County, or who may have a kid in PVA who don't have a bus. And, they're talking about how many hours a day of figuring out how to drive a kid across the county. And then we have the issues of the child at whose homeschool is Annapolis Middle, who, because they don't have a bus to Bates, can't be in the arts program there. And so it's an ongoing problem. My hope is, I mean, for the internal issue of, say, the Annapolis Middle and Bates, I wish we could work a partnership, for example, with city transportation on that.
Right.
We
Would the
should be
city
able
go to shuttle that small number? There can't be that many dozens.
It's a small, right. It's a
that they
small
have to take
number.
across, that they could van pool them or something.
I should say, yeah, van pools or something. Dr. Bedell said at the last meeting, he is continuing to say he's got more updates coming as they figure it out, right? The vans coming online, if you have a van that you can now dedicate to, say, the 3 kids, special ed kids you need to take somewhere, and that frees up a driver. I mean, we have plenty of school buses. We don't have enough drivers, right? So as soon as you free up a CDL driver, you free up another bus, right? So, we're chipping away at that. And that's one of those things. And you don't need a CDL driver to drive a van.
Right.
So those are the things he's working on, and magnets could be a place where that could come into play depending on what the route is. But the data question is very important because we need to see exactly, I know anecdotally things I've heard, but I haven't seen the data yet. So
awesome.
So that was going to be just the other thing I was going to, when we were talking earlier about collecting the data and understanding that principals are the ones that are saying they want to, just to make sure that they're not missing those people, right? Because if because there are people, or there are people like 2 of the moms who are on tonight, whose kids' bus is so overcrowded that they don't want to take the bus because it's so overcrowded. So they end up driving. And, so that's sort of why I was thinking that some sort of forum that went out to everyone or somehow could capture the issues, because some of the people might not even be going and telling the principal because it's like, well, we're going to figure it out, or we're just going to take care of it. And so,
right.
That's,
and
I think, important.
I also think, and I've said this to people, so when we did our initial transportation registration last spring, the way it was pursued was, let me say, highly conservative, right? It was basically to say, if you ever possibly need a bus, you need to say yes, right? Where I think we recognize there are sometimes change of life events and so on that can be adjusted. And I think as we reinstitute that for this year, for example, we've learned a few things, and my guess is there may be some adjustment to how that's done. So we'll have a more accurate count of who is depending on a bus consistently and who isn't. As to the overcrowding, I was in a meeting with our transportation department last week and Dr. Bedell, and the consultant who has worked with us from Prismatic, Dr. Prieto. They routed all these buses under capacity, not 3 students to a seat. High school students were 2 students to a seat. Elementary were 2.5, with a buffer, right? Because you always have a buffer in those things. So one of the things that's happening, and I believe should be happening now, if not already, is schools have, for the first time ever, accurate listings of who's on what bus, right? They hadn't had that before. That was one of the things about doing the registration. We actually got that. Now they have it. And so overcrowding is happening when kids are getting on buses they shouldn't be on. And so the schools are working through that as well, to figure out, what's happening, and either kids are going to the wrong stop or intentionally trying to get on a bus they shouldn't get on, various things. So they're continuing to work that out. But the buses should not be overcrowded if the correct number of the students who are supposed to be on that bus are on that bus. So
okay, I'd be interested in seeing for the bus here in Eastport for Annapolis High School, because it is overcrowded, and it'd be I mean, I don't know who would want to get onto this bus. And I just want to confirm something that Dr. Staknovich said, or Mr. Staknovich said at the last meeting. If somebody did not sign up for a bus, there is no, if they said no, they can't do transportation, they are not allowed. He said that they are not allowed to change their registration status for this year and that there will be no changes made. Is that accurate?
So I don't want to question Mr. Sheknovich's accuracy. I will simply say that it was my understanding that, is with many things, as I said, individual cases, people reach out to their principals, and, you know, if a family member is suddenly deployed, or, you know, or there's something significant that changes, there are points in the year where changes in the past have been made and can be made. I believe what he was referring to, this is my understanding, is that, you know, the statement was, well, if you've registered, you've registered. If you haven't, you haven't. That is never been 100. Those kinds of things have never been 100% hard and fast. Parents can ask for a change. I think there was a reference in the conversation at the board that, you know, we have a process, right? If a parent asks for the change and the change is denied, you can ask at the next step and ask for it. So there are lots of different things that a family can ask for, whether it's a residency change or something like that. And transportation could be something similar that has a process that moves up. So I never want to say never, and I'm not sure that was exactly met my understanding of what the structure is that we have.
Okay. I'm going to get the last very quick question, then we let Dr. Tobin go. Dr. Tobin, at our last meeting, you mentioned that the transportation specialist for the Annapolis cluster was an unfilled position within the thing, and that the transportation director was sitting in to fill that position. Is there any change in that situation?
I have not heard any change in that thus far. I know they're looking to fill that position.
Is there something about that position that is so difficult, or that someone else could not be routed into our cluster and some other cluster, you know?
Why that's the position that's not filled, I do not know. I don't have an answer to that. I do think it's simply a matter of finding, as with a lot of hiring right now, finding someone else. And so I think they lost the person they had there, and, you know.
Right. Can that position description be circulated to the Annapolis community so that the crowdsourcing network can then tell people to, hey, if you know of anybody, have them.
I can ask about that. Yeah.
Can you do that, please? Because this is desperately, you know, dysfunctional not to have, and to take away our transportation director, who should be doing these grand scale changes, to be doing the day-to-day. We need somebody in that slot. We need somebody consistently. Thank you.
And I wanted to say something really quick, because I'm sorry to cut you off. Ms. Tobin. What's helping us is the fact that lots of parents are now remote. Yes, partially remote. I work on a military base, and lots of people are remote, those who can be, those who are not in the healthcare, on the healthcare side. But lots of parents are remote or telework. And that has really helped. If there was any time for this to happen with the buses, this was sort of the best time, because could you imagine all of us having to go to work? The kids, what would happen?
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to say that.
Well, and look, what you're raising, Ms. Toomer, is a critical point. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. The schools in this county have stood in for two things. They've stood in for affordable daycare, which is very hard to find for most parents. And they've stood in for having probably the most reliable public transportation most people have regular access to, which are the school buses. And the truth is, as I said, that's not the core function. Neither of those things are the core function of schools. You're absolutely right. We got sort of lucky in that there are a lot of parents who are remote. And it may be that that continues to some extent. You know, there's lots of economic projections about how much of that will continue. But the fact is, there are plenty of parents who aren't. And similarly, on military bases, there are parents who have to be at work at 6:30 in the morning, come hell or high water. And, you know, that is a brutal situation to be in. And so, you know, we have to make sure, I mean, we do have more space in the system because of those who are teleworking now than we might have had in the past, but we can't depend on that moving forward. So, yeah, I hear you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for spending so much of your time with us, Dr. Tobin.
I'm sorry, I have to
consistent
go.
Presence is awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for what you're doing. Hi, Ms. Campbell. Good to see you. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the evening. And you know where to find me. So reach out if you need something. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. We're going to move to number 7 on our agenda, which is AACPS staff updates. And as I mentioned, I reached out to the assistant superintendent for the Annapolis cluster is Ms. Jolynn Davis. And so I sent her a number of emails prior to our meeting. She was not able to join us today, but I'm going to read you those emails. So Odessa sent an email regarding saying, are we ever going to discuss the overcrowding at Annapolis High? Are there any plans in the making? So I forwarded that to Ms. Davis, and her reply was, hello, I'm in receipt of your question and we'll get back in touch with you as soon as possible. Okay, so she received our question on that. I also sent her a question on whether flu shots, you know, prior to the pandemic, flu shots and flu mist were given in our elementary schools offered to all our school kids. And we didn't know what the situation was going to be for this year, especially with, you know, the host of 15 other viruses that are circulating currently. It'd be great if we could protect our kids from flu shots. She did reply to me on that. Let me just see her reply. Was that she checked in with the the assistant superintendent for school support, Ms. McDonald Egan. And they are saying that flu shot clinics are going to be held, are intending to be held at the Title I schools in the Annapolis cluster. I believe her email said that they were going to be held after school, but don't quote me on that. We will find out more. And she said she was waiting for information on that, and we will distribute that to you as soon as possible. But I checked the health department website probably 4 days ago, and nothing had been posted yet on the health department website about any flu clinics for the entire town. Laura, did you have a point you wanted to add?
Just the equity issue of having them after school when we're just had this whole conversation about the difficulty that families have getting their kids to and from school. Now we're expecting kids who do have a bus to stick around to get a shot after school. Traditionally, all of our Title I schools pre-COVID, all of our Title I schools got free flu shots offered in the building during the school day. They sent home a notice for parents, you signed off, it went back, and then your kid got their shot during the day. So I do think this is something we should continue to advocate for our Title I students, specifically our Title I schools, to make sure, but really honestly, all the schools in our cluster, because we have, even at the high school, we have such a high number of farm students that we need to have these clinics available to students during the school day for families that don't have private transportation.
Okay, we will follow up on that. Here's the exact message. Ms. McDonald Egan's office shared with me today that their current understanding is that Title I schools will be offered flu shots after school hours this year. Clarification and additional information will be shared with families as it is made available from the health department. So we can send them an email back saying exactly saying your points and statements that we really believe it needs to happen during school hours. So the commission will follow up with that as an action item. Pam, if you can write that as an action item for us. And then I asked Ms. Davis if she is going to be able to join us for the commission meetings going forward. This was her response. I hope all is well. And speaking with Mr. Mosier, who has been in contact with Dr. Tobin, I, Ms. Davis, will be providing Dr. Tobin updates, and she will share them on my behalf during the October commission meeting and in future meetings. I will be sure to include priority areas for her to share. So that's the information from our assistant superintendent for the cluster. It would be great if we would have some opportunities to ask her questions directly, but just like Odessa did yesterday or so, send an email. If you want to send an email to me, I will forward it to Jolene. If you want to send an email directly as a commission member, please make sure you CC the Annapolis Education Commission at gmail.com address so that we are in the loop as you are finding things out from the school administration. And we will try and follow up on any of your concerns. Okay, so that's the end of the staff updates that I know of. We're going to go into discussion of other items. I want to introduce, and we invited some of our partners here to tell us what is happening with their programs these months so that we could, distribute that to our wider community, participate, support them however they need. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Amanda Campbell from Seeds for Success, and she's going to share a little bit with us what they are up to.
Hi, everyone. So Seeds for Success, we've been up to really great things, and I'm very proud to be a part of what we're doing. First of all, I'm sorry I'm so dark. I don't know what's going on with my lighting over here, but yes. So just to start, a few updates. The summer was very strong for us. We created strategies to ensure that our students would not experience any regression in their progress from the grade that they were in. And so we launched a program called Summer R&R, which means Summer Reading and Relaxation. And the goal of the program, what we did was we found books for each grade level on the Aacps summer reading list that we felt was most appropriate. And I had a theme. So mine was kind of like Under the Water. So they read like The Little Mermaid and some other things. And then we put them in bags, and then we went around and delivered them to all of the students, along with the game board from the Anne Arundel County Public Library system. Barnes and Noble has like a free summer reading journal, and if you complete it, you get a free book. So things like that to really incentivize them and make them excited about reading, even if it's over the summer. We also created bags for each and every one of our volunteers/mentors so that they can still interact with their student over the summer, and they would ultimately read together. And that has proven to be very successful. Volunteers and students alike are seem very enthusiastic going into this new school year. And I believe it's because they had the confidence that they may have not had before because of the practice that they had over the summer. So that was great. So now going into programs, we kick off everything next month. Our middle school program will be launching mid-October, and the elementary school program will be launching at Eastport Elementary School on October 26th. We are hoping that will be our station site for this school year. We previously were in the Eastport Community Center, and we just want to mix it up a little bit. So right now, when it comes to needs and things like that, we are expanding the elementary school program from grades kindergarten through 5th. We previously were just 3rd through 5th, but we've now made that change to be more inclusive of the students that we serve. And so where I need assistance is to recruit students from Eastport Elementary School specifically, or like close and surrounding schools to ensure that we have kindergarten through second graders. So that's a big thing. I'm currently working with Miss Charlene Bell at Eastport Elementary School. She's a community schools program manager, and she's been a great help. We are also in need of volunteers. For middle school, I believe we need about 2, but for my elementary school program, I need about 25. So if anyone knows of anybody or yourselves that would be interested in volunteering, that would be amazing. And if you, I would leave my information in the chat or somewhere.
Yeah,
So you can
I'll circulate it to everybody who attended.
Okay, thank you.
They can know how to reach you.
Yes, just please reach out to me. Like I said, if you know anyone, because I'm not going to say I'm desperate, but I just need a lot of volunteers.
What are those volunteers going to be doing, Amanda? What kind of commitment or time frame,
Sure.
time of day?
Yep. So it would be at least a 1 day a week commitment. Elementary programs are on Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. And you will be matched up with a tutee, and you would be a tutor. And like I said, it'll be once a week, and you would just come in and help them with their homework, kind of work through some SEL reflections with them and things like that. A lot of volunteers do go over and above and like see their students outside of the time they see them in school, just because they've built close relationships, but that is not a requirement for anyone. So yes, that's what's needed right now. Just tutors for elementary school.
Okay.
So yes.
And Lakaira, I don't know if any of your students at Georgetown East are able to get over to Eastport Elementary to participate at this kind of program, or?
Amanda, do you provide transportation?
We do. So we're working right now. We have a huge van, but because we're expanding to K through second, we would need car seats to transport our students. So right now I am in touch with a bus company to get all the logistics set and have a contract with them.
Great.
Can I just ask a couple questions as an Eastport parent? So how is this being I guess, distributed to the students? Is the school identifying students that are in need, or is it going out to the
That's what we're
parents?
asking for specifically teachers to identify students that they have in their class that may just need a little bit of extra help, a little bit of extra attention, or in need of like one-on-one time and could really benefit from that. Because what we don't want is to have children in our program that don't really need it. This is for children that, just like I said, need a little extra help, but we're not going to close our doors to anybody. So anyone that's identified, yeah.
And if you could, when you send the information, what the needs are in terms of volunteers, right? Do we need to be background checked? Is it AACPS level?
Yes.
You know, what the different things are, if you can send that information out. And I'm sorry, I interrupted the question to Lakaira, so I wanted to apologize for that. But we have the PTA has a really robust communication system, as does the school. So
Okay.
That's information that we could get out in terms of volunteering, and I could personally get it out to the rest of the community as well, that for that. So
That
would be awesome. Thank you so much. I'll definitely make sure I send everything to Miss Janet to be sent out.
Great.
Okay.
And especially if it's some of like kindergarten families that that maybe the school system hasn't got to know, as well yet, or to identify them. Maybe that's a good connection also.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
I think that's everything, but thank you all so much.
Yay. Thank you for participating with us, and thank you for being the bedrock of our community.
Thank you.
I didn't know if Lakaira is available to talk or she's busy.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm here.
No worries. I just didn't know if any Georgetown East students would be suitable for participating in this kind of program, if the slots were not already taken up with Eastport elementary students. Or
I do know we have some volunteers. I can't get the name. I can't think of the name right now. That comes on, I think, Wednesdays, but they only work with second graders once a week. to help with tutoring, reading, and help with their homework and everything. But as far as transportation to get to Eastport Elementary, I think that might be an issue with a lot of our families. But like she said, she's trying to get transportation and get buses. So with that in place, I feel like we might be able to have some families to participate.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. I'll definitely keep you posted.
Great. Thank you. Thank you too for connecting. Lycaira, do you know if it's the STAIR program?
Yes, the
doing
STAIR
the-
program.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, we've talked with them before, but haven't reached out recently. So maybe we can connect with them and make their needs known. I did want to bring up a opportunity coming up on October 6th. The Charting Careers Organization, which is another nonprofit in our area, who's helping mentor students from various levels up through the high school, is having a mentor information and training session October 6th at the Eastport United Methodist Church. The time is 5:30 to 7:30. So the first hour describes the mentoring program, what it takes to volunteer with them. I'm going to be going to this training. Even if I don't become a one-on-one mentor, if I then become someone who helps kids through the Naviance system of, college or career applications, how to get their teacher recommendations in, how to set up a profile, getting them through that bureaucracy. So you don't always have to be the one-on-one mentor like during the day. They have other roles that you can serve. So the first hour is what they do and what to be a mentor. And then the second hour is, and you can leave after the first hour if you say, hey, this is not for me. And then the second hour goes into the exact roles that they would need people to fill. So the person coordinating that is our Annapolis High School PTSA vice president, and that's Latika Hicks. And her information is Latika, LATICIA, at chartingcareers.org. So October 6th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. I will distribute the flyer to our commission members and attendees here, but I wanted to put it on anybody's calendar if you want to participate in that. Okay. And also, if you know of students, I talked with Dr. Erin Snell, is the executive director of Charting Careers, and they are still accepting students, some seniors and anybody into their program that then they help them apply to colleges and careers, and then they follow them into college and help support them with scholarships and other support. So it's really a great program for those students who go through this sponsored mentorship to get them to their next steps. Okay. Does anybody else have any other like NGO events that we want to highlight? Lakira. Lakira, do you want to share something with us?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sorry, I just saw your little box highlighted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that on purpose. I did it by mistake. I didn't mean to do that.
No worries. No, I just didn't want to overlook you if you had something to say. Does anybody else have any other events for their NGO, or then we would move to PTA events? Laura, did you have any flyers or anything you wanted to highlight, Bates things coming up?
There was sorry, Laura, in that I sent you, there was an NGO event there was an event on Friday, which I don't have it in front of me, the community wellness event.
The community health fair?
Yeah.
Yep, hang on. These were all in that slideshow that Janet, so hang on a second, I'll bring this up.
Sure.
Maybe
We Laura is our vice chair, and we throw things at her in the last 2 hours before the meeting and say, please work some magic.
So
More
if you
like
hear my
the
stomach,
insider in the last.
yeah. And if you
half
hear my
hour
stomach
before the
rumbling,
meeting.
it's because I did this instead of eating dinner.
5:30.
All right, yeah. So here was the community health fair information. This is from where was this from? Shanika Henson's has a great newsletter that she has all sorts of wonderful community events. I actually found a bunch as I was looking through there. There's the community health fair, which they're having a they have all sorts of different vaccinations and screenings. And then there's also a blood drive. So we had some information on that. And we can send out a copy of this spreadsheet or this PowerPoint to anybody. Just send an email to Annapolis Education Commission at gmail.com and we can send this information out because I know that's a lot to kind of try to follow. Those URLs are long. There was there's an after-school program at Maryland Hall, and it does say transportation is provided. I thought this was interesting because it's for 11 through 18. So it's our middle school and high school students who don't often have, besides the REACH program at Pitt Moyer, there really aren't a lot of after-school programs for them. So I thought this was a good one. And for students at Bates, you can literally walk across the street. That's what Ken Starks runs that. He's a former commissioner from the commission. So
Laura, I did want to point out this one, we're having problems getting transportation for Annapolis middle school students.
Okay.
And so one of the things that, because the rec department doesn't have a bus, so they can't provide a bus. So that's something that I've been working with Mr. Starks and Emily Tomasini in Annapolis Middle School on trying to figure out how to get transportation, because this is a fantastic program. And Kenny has done a great job with it. We just need to get the kids there. So
seems to be a recurring theme. The challenge is getting the kids there. All right, so that was good. And then we had these were two. There's two at Annapolis Middle, the Hispanic Heritage Night. Do you want to talk about these, Jess?
Sure. This is Friday night. We're having Hispanic Heritage Night at Annapolis Middle School from 6 to 8 p.m. And this is going to be a fun night of music and food and dancing and games and much more. So, if you're able to and can attend, that would be fantastic. And that's, I will say it is the same night as Annapolis High School's homecoming game. And the Annapolis High School homecoming game, if you are not aware, is now at 5 p.m. As opposed to 7 p.m. I think was the original time. So just making sure that information's out.
Yeah, Jess, it's going to be a rough weekend because starting Friday around noon, we're supposed to get a lot of rain from Friday through Tuesday.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of events this weekend and a lot of concern about what's going to happen with the storm. I think we should also probably just give a moment of thinking about everyone who is in the line of fire from Hurricane Ian right now, because that's a pretty rough storm.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah. Thank you, Jess. And if anybody else, you have one more. Good.
Sorry, there was more. I was just waiting for the slide.
Sorry, I'm slow.
Tomorrow night, Thursday night, is Title I Information Night at Annapolis Middle School. So if you're an Annapolis Middle School parent or Annapolis Middle School supporter, tomorrow night is the, for those, we've talked about it before, but just in case for anyone who hasn't heard, Annapolis Middle School is now a Title I school. It's the first Title I middle school in the county. It is, I'm really excited about it. It's providing a lot of resources. We have an extra social worker now. We have just a number of resources that our students really need. And so having the Title I program there is fantastic. And this will be an opportunity from 6 to 7 p.m. to learn about the Title I program and how it will be implemented at Annapolis Middle School. Annapolis Middle School is actually doing, I should have sent this to you, a lot of really great things. And there's this great flyer that they've put together.
Laura, can you switch so that Jess's screen is, that's okay.
Oops, hang on.
Can we switch to have her, there we go. Okay, Jess.
So this is a lot of the things that are happening at Annapolis Middle School, as you can see, and they've planned it out throughout the entire year.
Nice.
We have Title I Information Night tomorrow. We have a Parent Advisory Council, which is on October 6th. That's a virtual event. We have an SEL Family Workshop on October 18th. We have, so there's 4 Parent Advisory Councils actually throughout the year. We have literacy workshop, math workshops. For those who have been at Title I elementary schools, you might recognize some of those. And I've always found them to be incredibly informative as a way to actually understand what's happening in my kids' classroom and how I can support my students and the school at home and outside the classroom. So I am really excited about that. We also have the Dragon Conexion, which is our website. There's just a lot of great things happening at Annapolis Middle School. If you aren't getting the information from the school, please let the front office know that you need to be getting that information. Please feel free to reach out to me about that. And please do try to come, tomorrow night or Friday night if you're able to. There's a lot of great things happening in Annapolis Middle.
Yay. Yay. Thank you, middle school power people. We appreciate all the information. To the rest of the commissioners, we would love to include anything from your schools. So if you ever can contact the schools within your ward and just ask their PTAs what's going on, what can we highlight, what can we help publicize. I did send out an email to every PTA member that I had contact for. Monarch no longer has a PTA president that responds, that they don't have a PTA anymore. But to all the rest of the schools in our cluster, the elementary schools, I sent out contact to the PTA. So we want to, I know it's one more thing for them to respond to, but if you know them, see them, can speak to them, let them know that we want to support their events. We want to publicize them throughout the community, and we want to help with them whatever we can.
I can give a quick report from Eastport.
Enid has her hand up, so I'll go to Enid and then you, Jess.
Yes, I was just wondering, I know one of our actions from the last meeting was that when that information out that we would tell them about the vacancies on the.
So as Jess and Laura can attest, as PTA presidents at the middle school, I did send out an email to all of our PTA heads, and I sent them telling them about the commission vacancies in Ward 1 and Ward 4. I sent them the maps of where Ward 1 and Ward 4 are. I sent them the website link for what the commission was, who's on the commission, what they do, that they could, look at our minutes, look at any of our agendas so that they know who is this commission. I have not heard back with anyone stepping up yet, but I will continue to put that information out there to encourage them to participate. But if you know of anybody in the at-large Ward 1 or Ward 4 who wants to apply, there's a location on the city website that I'm happy to send you, that you put your application in to be on this education commission as a voting member. Thank you, Enid, for bringing up that action item.
Jan.
Yeah,
I did talk to someone about student representative, but I thought I would wait for unfinished business.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if you want to go ahead and just mention it right now.
His name is Akil Leggett.
Okay. Yep.
He's a junior over at Annapolis High.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he did say that he would be interested, but that's all the information. I haven't talked to his parents yet, so
okay.
I want to talk to his parents.
Sure.
Are you familiar with him?
I know. Yes, I have heard of him. He's a very impressive student. I've heard some things, so I would be, happy.
I think he's the junior class president too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay. Jess and then Laura.
Yep. So Eastport Elementary, we had walk to school day today. We probably had about 50 kids show up to eat donuts from the Eastport community at the fire station, and then all walk to school together. So that was a great community event that was very fun. We have so Eastport Elementary is one of the schools that does not have aftercare program. The rec department has put together they got a grant, I think is how it worked, for Get Smart After School Club, which takes place at the rec department, or at the rec center, at the Pip Moyer Rec Center, not the Eastport Rec Center. And that has, from what I understand, I think is full or almost full, which is 25 kids who needed aftercare. And we were always told that the reason we couldn't have aftercare because there was no interest. So clearly there's an interest for aftercare, which is great news. And I'm really excited about this program. It's really needed. Our community school and our PTAs are working hard together for after school clubs and sports clubs. And in addition to what Amanda was talking about, we also need volunteers for that. And I wanted to officially introduce Lakaira, who is the PTA president at Georgetown East. And I am super excited that she's here. And I'm super excited that we're working together. Eastport and Georgetown East are working together to try to create some connections. Eastport is also offering English basic skills classes. And I also wanted to you're going to remind everybody about Cash for Schools. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, and I wanted to finish with thank you, Lakaira, for being here, and hopefully you will be able to make it for additional meetings. And I agree, having our PTAs involved in learning more about what's actually happening in our schools is a really important way of doing that. And speaking of schools, if you're hungry, Laura, and you have not eaten yet, Mod Pizza is open till 10, and it's Annapolis High School night at Mod Pizza. 20% of all orders go to Annapolis High School. So you get your dinner there.
And if you're hungry tomorrow, you can go back to Mod Pizza because the 8th grade at Bates is having a dining out there tomorrow.
There you go. And you can buy gift cards online and still support the school. So
oh, that's great to know. Thank you.
Well, where's my pizza? Where is that?
It's in the Festival at Riva Shopping Center, and it's right around the corner behind Panera. Do you know where the Panera is in the Festival at Riva?
Oh yeah, the Mod
Panera.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's very good pizza.
Yeah, I've been there. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then we wanted to give a shout out again for the Cash for Schools program. If you're not familiar with this is an amazing program that K&B True Value started some years ago, and they've been joined by other local businesses this year. Bay Ridge Wine and Spirits, Evolve Medical Clinic, Lido Pizza, and Naptown Scoop are all helping to support this program. Basically, the way that it works is that they will match whatever donation you make. So if you go to any of these locations to make a purchase, you can round up or make a, add $5 onto your bill and they will match it. And from what I understand now, for the month of October, they're actually double matching. So if you shop at True Value, which you should, because they have absolutely everything there, that place is like the TARDIS. You walk in the door and there's way more stuff than that building should be able to hold. Or Lido Pizza. I think October 12th, the Bates PTA is having a restaurant night at Lido Pizza. But if you please sponsor these businesses or, shop at these businesses and thank them, because this is an amazing program. They have donated, I think last year they donated $30,000 to schools in our cluster, which is amazing. And those funds are so needed. So anything that we can do to help support this program and to support these businesses so that they can continue to do things like that would be, awesome. So thank you everybody involved with this program.
Great. Okay. Does anybody else have a school event that you'd like to highlight? Otherwise, I'm going to move to okay. I'm going to move to Laura, if you could go to our next slide with houses. So this would be in unfinished business. I think we're moving to, and this is unfinished business.
You want the Zillow
Yeah,
page?
the Zillow, we have a Zillow listing to show you. So There's a new development being built on the top of Quiet Waters Park on the road I used to live in, Annapolis Neck Road. So I just wanted to show you, we as the commission have brought this up, I'd say for the last 5 years, 5 to 6 years. Oops,
Or
sorry.
12.
or more. So these are brand new townhouses being constructed, and then there's some single family homes. But on every single Zillow listing, you will see the opportunity to look at, here's your nearby schools, and here is how they are rated. And if you go to Annapolis Middle School, getting a rating of 3 out of 10, or Annapolis High School, getting a rating out of 3 out of 10. Laura, if you can go to the next slide. And so this is the great schools listing you will see for Annapolis High School. And it's showing, below average college readiness, and I don't have the next slide that talks about, it breaks down the scores. Where we are falling the most short is they are looking at data, usually a few years old, more than a few years, that is showing large achievement gaps between our groups. And they're also looking at our chronic absenteeism. So they define chronic absenteeism just like the state does. If you have something like 18 or more, that's 10% of the school year, 18 or more unexcused absences. Well, unfortunately, in our cluster, a lot of the parents, are working, are busy, and the cluster has changed the procedures in how you report absences. So if your kid is homesick that day and you didn't fill out the Google form that the school has now moved to, they will report you as an unexcused absence for that day of illness. If you send in a form, or if you send in a note to the school explaining that your child was legitimately sick and signing it by the parent, then they'll not count that. But we particularly are getting whacked. We're working on closing the achievement gaps with things like transportation, with things like Seeds for Success and Charting Careers and everything else. But if we do not have the accurate reporting for our absences and excused absences, we fall into this, it looks like our schools are doing a terrible job, which for anyone who's had their kids in our schools, and my 2 sons graduated from Annapolis High in 2018 and 2021, and we went to Hillsmere and we went to Annapolis Middle. That our teachers are working incredibly from where the students are to where they move them by the end of the year. So I just want to point this out, that if you can contact your schools and have them take control of the data, because Maryland State Department of Ed, if you look on your school's website, there's also a Maryland report card website, and have them update the data, have them update the great schools data, because you can take control of, when it says Annapolis High School and it says claimed, it means some administrator at ACPS has claimed that website and they provide updates, but they don't have the updates of number of AP tests being taken. We have 0 data in that category. So it looks like nobody at Annapolis High is taking AP tests. And it says 0 for number of IB students. It said 44 for number of IB students, less than 1% of the school. Well, we know that, give or take 370 some IB students are in the school, but that data is not being reported. We are looking worse and worse because of it. So please follow up with your schools and with AACPS and say, hey, we don't want to be unfairly maligned and have people say your schools are bad because the data is not being reported accurately. This is especially important as we move into the overcrowding of the school system, where redistricting is going to be happening. And so some neighborhoods are going to be moved from Annapolis into the South River cluster. Some are going to be moved, from South River or all over the system. We're going to be shuffling seats within the system of different neighborhoods. And we don't need Annapolis's reputation unfairly trashed because of data gaps and other things. You can also go in, if you look at the stars on the review site, please go into the great schools listing and give an accurate representation of what experience you have found at that school. I'm not telling you to, exaggerate. I'm telling you, tell them what you have experienced at the school. In the past, tell them we have a new superintendent who's doing all sorts of good things, because the reviews are based on maybe 3 or 4 reviews from the past 3 years. Some are 5 to 7 years old. Some are older than that. There's so few recent reviews that this is what every buyer, this is what every military family who moves into the area is seeing, that, gosh, who would want to send your kids to this school that gets a 3 out of 10? I'm going to take Odessa's hand first and then Jess.
Oh, okay. So there is conversation about redistricting, and this is my first time hearing anything about it.
Yes, so at the Board of Ed meeting, they discussed that, they brought that up, and Miss Ellis, the
Melissa
board president, had talked about there's, a good potential of having comprehensive redistricting where multiple districts would be involved. But it has not been set in stone yet. They're going to let us know as things come up. But they know that some schools are bursting at the seams and they have empty seats at other schools.
So now, as far as development is concerned, there's development all over this town. What about that area out there by Aris T. Allen Boulevard? What's going on back there behind Bywater? Have you seen that development coming up?
I have not seen that particular one. I don't know if it's part of the parole growth zone, which was designated to not have to be part of the Annapolis ordinance for public facilities ordinance, got exemptions for growth. So there's a lot of questions about how those are being handled.
And then there's another development that's going up over there by Bay Ridge Avenue. What's that over there off of Hilltop Lane?
I do not know. I do
Okay,
not.
well, I'm just saying it's a lot of it. That's the reason why I was asking the question about the crowding.
Overcrowding. Okay.
Annapolis High, because there's so much development going on.
Right. Many of those subdivisions that have been in, like the ones on Annapolis Neck, that's been in the plans and permitting for many years. The school system has prepared a, whether it's accurate or not, an estimate of how many kids that development generates. What we do need to do is check and make sure those rates are good. I'm going to go to Jess, and then it's 8:01, so we need to wrap quickly. But Jess, you're next. Can't hear you.
All right. Yep. So I just wanted to reiterate how important this is, because, as we all know, our schools have a large number of, we have a very diverse population of kids who come in, not speaking any English. We have kids from a wide diversity of backgrounds coming into our schools. And so our ratings, because the ratings that Great Schools does they're inherently biased for schools that come from where all the students come from, high levels of reading and college education in the home and high levels of English spoken in the home, etc. Making sure it's really important that we all do this and that we review our schools and that we check our things, because we're already inherently behind in the ratings for a bias that doesn't belong. Great Schools Ratings does not in any way evaluate the education that any individual student is receiving in the classroom. It just compares students across the board. And when you have schools with the diversity that we have in our schools, there's no way that you can do that accurately when you're comparing it to schools that don't look like our schools. And so, so it's just really important. Odessa, the project on Forest Drive is not part of the county. It's not, so Janet, the county exemption for public areas is only within the county. That doesn't have anything to do with projects in the city. And the
Okay.
projects
I didn't know
on
this was in the city. Okay.
Strive are within the city. And so, as you mentioned, they are projects that have been sort of they're called ghost projects that have been
Previously
in the work for a
Okay.
very long time. Same with the one at the corner of Bay Ridge and Tyler. And, you know, there is some research that needs to be done into making sure that the APFO in the city is being accurately managed, because we do have an APFO outside of the county has their own APFO for county projects. So just so everyone knows, all of the building along Riva Road is part of the town center growth plan. And so none of those buildings are being included in, they're all exempt from the APFO, which means that
and the APFO is adequate public facilities ordinance.
Right, they're adequate public facilities ordinance. So even though in the county, Annapolis is closed because Annapolis High School is over capacity, those are exempt from having to do any sort of mitigation and they're allowed to build because they're within the town center area, which is going to be problematic no matter what for Annapolis High School, because that's a lot of development of homes where kids are going to come out of and go to Annapolis High School, and it's not being included. And the reason we have an APFO is to help mitigate some of these issues.
Okay, so I'm going to cap the discussion on that because we need to finish up. Does anyone have a new business that they would like to propose that we look at from now to the next meeting? You know, I would also encourage our commissioners that we're not just working, you know, once a month and at these meetings. And so feel free, please email, please check your emails, ask questions of your decision makers, keep us involved. I see Duan Gay is our alderman is there, I hope. So if there's new business, let's keep doing it in between our meetings and generating those questions and those responses from our decision makers. Alderman Gay, if you're here and you want to say anything, we'd always love to have your input.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just watching from home. I wanted to quickly jump in.
Great.
Well, really following up on, we just passed a grant for childcare assistance in the city of Annapolis. I sponsored it in this last fiscal year. It was for $250,000.
Wow.
We're giving that all out in the next 2 weeks. $60,000 of which have been given to 2 daycares in the city of Annapolis. They'll be offering free services. I believe one of which focuses primarily on toddlers, and the other, more grade school kids. We've also partnered with, which I thought was important to mention, a number of programs and nonprofits that are working directly with the schools that you all are working in every day: Eastport Elementary School, Georgetown East, Tyler Heights. So there'll be funding available to those schools through those programs. As I was just mentioning to Jess, I think it'd be extremely helpful if the commission could present before the Annapolis City Council at some point, and particularly before the school year is over, so that if there are funding issues, I know in particularly middle of the school year, of our Title I schools struggle to with the PTA, et cetera, all of that, just to get those funds dispersed out to them. We did give the PTA, I think, of Eastport, $12,000, if I'm not mistaken. They asked for 21, but we had to make it work so that everybody could be, everybody could be taken care of. And so I just wanted to quickly catch you all up on that. We sent out award letters this week, so everybody's hopefully signing them, sending them back, and then they'll be getting funding soon. And so, in particularly Georgetown, Tyler Heights, if we could, have some sort of relationship with those PTAs, we could, try to do the same exact thing. So
those are awesome points. Thank you so much for that info, Alderman Gay. Now, how do people apply for the childcare subsidies and grants?
If you go to the city's website, look at the Office of Community Services.
Okay.
you'll have an opportunity to, there's an interactive like drop down on Office of Community Services webpage, and you can select what service you need, childcare,
Okay.
Housing assistance, whatever. And someone from the staff will follow up with you and try to get you taken care of.
Awesome. That's awesome to learn about, and that there's city grants to the PTAs is fantastic. Thank you. Is that the regular city grant cycle? These are the regular grants that have been happening for decades? Is that part of it, or is
this is a new fund. This is the first of its kind, separate from our community grants.
Okay.
Yeah, separate from that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that Eastport Elementary put in a grant for that. Terrific.
Absolutely. I'm glad we could help, and thank you for allowing me to jump on.
Huge. Anytime, and just shoot us any information you want to share, because thank you so much for helping the kids. I don't know if you saw at the very beginning, I gave kudos to the city for all the amazing things they're doing to expose our students to so many opportunities, and like city staff is just knocking themselves out lately. So we're really thankful.
Yeah, just also really quickly, I'm sorry. We also had a very, very good summer internship program with a number of students from Annapolis High School. I'll be making a request to the city council for an additional $100,000 to bring that back in the spring and through the summer, through next summer. It went very, very well. We in fact still have some on board that are working at the high school and assisting us in community programming. And most importantly, they're getting paid. And so I think just, like you said, just creating those partnerships is so good, but I hope to have a open dialogue with you all at some point about how we can help further.
Yeah, and if you ever need letters of support from the commission to the city in the budget process, please let us know how we can help you do all these terrific things.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Yay! I love it. I love that. Okay, does anybody else have unfinished business you'd like us to bring up to follow up with the next month? Jess, you have your hand up quick. No. Okay.
That was from before, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so then I'm going to move to telling you the date of our next meeting is October 26th. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month, October 26th, and from 6 to 8 p.m. We would love to have you all participating. We do have a scheduling challenge problem with the November and December dates, because our fourth Wednesday of the month then is kind of conflicting with the holidays. Mark Hildebrand of the city was kind enough to check the schedule for us, and he's seen that November 30th is available. We couldn't move it to the earlier Wednesday because November 16th is a budget, a Board of Ed nighttime meeting. So we didn't want to conflict with that. But instead of November 23rd, which is right around Thanksgiving, I think it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. If we would move our commission meeting to November 30th, does that sound doable to most of the commission, or?
Yep.
Going once, going twice?
I make a motion to move the November meeting to the 30th.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Second.
Laura has seconded. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have moved the November meeting to the 30th of November, 6 to 8 p.m. on Zoom here. The December meeting is a tough one. I'm going to send out a couple of different proposals by email to follow up with you, because lots of other commissions are having to move for the December holidays. So I'll
do we have to, sorry, do we have to move? I mean, the 21st, I know it's the week before Christmas, but school is still in session. Like, I understand.
Sure.
Because it's the day before Thanksgiving, but
right.
To me, it seems like any other option is going to be equally
right.
cruddy.
Right. If you all think that we can be a go for December and have enough people to have a quorum for December 21st, I'm happy to keep that date.
Well, we would
But
be,
the-
normally we would fall on the 28th.
Right.
So you
That's
think
what it
That's the
was.
third Wednesday.
It was the 28th that I thought people were going to be away.
right.
Right. No, the regular meeting date would be the 28th, which I prefer before the 21st, since it's before Christmas when everybody's getting, trying to get everything done.
Yeah, yeah. It's already 8:13, so maybe I will try and send out a doodle poll with a couple of the dates and knowing that it's tough for the city to get the slots in there. We don't have a lot of wiggle room, but I will send out a poll to see what people would prefer, how we prefer to handle it so that we could get a quorum. So December, stay tuned. But otherwise, the commission meetings are the fourth Wednesday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. here on the Zoom channel. I'm going to entertain any motions to adjourn the meeting, and thank you all for your amazing participation and look forward to some emails from me. Any motion to adjourn? Laura?
I'll move.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Enid seconds. Meeting is adjourned.